So in this video, I wanted to talk to you about the fact that why I'm injured and why it's hurting me so much, both physically and mentally. And I just wanted to share some of my feelings with you. So this is a different one for me. It's not something that I normally do on this channel. What I like to do normally is try and provide you with tips around, getting you healthier, fitter, and away from injury. But I thought that I would take this opportunity to share my personal feelings, because what it's allowed me to do is identify with some of the struggles that people that I typically work with are going through, and that's the only positive that I see in myself. So I'm currently suffering a injury, and I want to explain about some of the battles that I've had with this and why I've struggled to come to terms with this without sounding too dramatic, because it might be things that resonate with you. So I was going to just share my feelings. And I'm somebody who, my main passion from a sporting perspective nowadays is running and long distance running. And 2 years ago, I ran the London Marathon, but my training had gone absolutely perfect. Everything was set for me hopefully to be PBing and achieving a personal best. I'd gone through my longest runs in training. Everything was going well until 2 weeks before, on one of my final runs, I suddenly pulled and ripped my groin. And it was heartbreak at the time, and I really didn't know what I was going to do. I'd made a commitment to charities, I'd raised money, I'd worked with the charity closely, I knew people personally, and I felt compelled to try and run it. And I didn't know what was going to happen on the day, and the race started out, and the race was going okay. I reached the halfway point and I was on track for timings. I was aware of the pain, but not too much of a problem. And then at 18, 19 miles, I turned the corner and disaster struck, and I felt the groin really pull, and instantly I didn't know what to do. I could manage to walk and run for about a mile, and then it got to the point where I was in so much pain that all I could do was fashion some strange power walk, which I did for the final 6 miles, and it got me across the line. I then rested and started the rehab process, but I kind of made the cardinal error of not doing this properly. It's funny, one of the biggest things that I've struggled with is the guilt that I feel over having a serious injury, because I feel that I should know better, and I constantly talk about doing better. But when it comes to yourself, I don't know if you can resonate with that, but it's very well knowing something and another thing actually doing something. And I didn't do the right thing. I returned to running and I was running okay, but I was always constantly kind of aware of this slight problem. And the problem that I have, to share with you, the injury that I have, is that I've damaged the lower part of my stomach as it joins into my pelvis. It's what we call that tear of the aponeurosis by the pubic symphysis, for anyone who's interested. And it's not something that I recommend. It's been very sore, but I felt this problem coming, but I could carry on doing what I wanted to do. So rather than addressing the problem, I just ignored it, and I would be out on a long run at a weekend and I would be slightly aware of it, but it wouldn't stop me. And I'd think to myself, must address that during the week, must get down to that. And I am a self-confessed workaholic. The weeks go very quickly where I consume myself with work, really, and then I'm back to my long run, and the same problem happened, but it didn't stop me, and I promised myself this week was going to be the week, and so forth, until around 3 months ago I was doing some stomach work, which again normally caused me some sort of problem, but not a big problem. But suddenly I hit a big problem, and I felt a pain and I felt a problem, and I tried to just initially rest it. I tried to then return to running, basically everything that is wrong. And essentially why I wanted to make this video was to say that it got to the point where I couldn't run anymore, and that was really affecting me both physically but also mentally. I was really struggling with the fact that I couldn't go out and get my stress relief, but this was also being battled with the fact that I knew I was almost embarrassed to be injured, embarrassed in terms of perhaps having the professional knowledge that I do. This problem should never have happened to me, but for whatever reason, I felt that I was different. I felt that what I would have said to my clients and people like yourself didn't apply to me, and for some reason, it was just going to work out differently for me. So I was embarrassed when the fact that it couldn't, and I couldn't just get myself back to a return to running. I was also embarrassed by the fact of how much it was affecting me, how much it was affecting my mood, and how much it was affecting me mentally, not being able to get out and do the things that I wanted to do. It's something that I always live by is the sort of old adage that, if you're with a group of people and you all put your problems into a bowl, you'd probably take back your own ones. And that was very much the case. I work with people who have much bigger problems than this, and I have. So I also felt a guilt that this wasn't the worst thing in the world. But what I've come to accept is that I think a few things really. It is okay for it to be a big deal if you are injured. It is okay that it might be affecting you both mentally and physically. You know, as people who like to keep fit, to keep healthy, to achieve our sporting goals, injury is unfortunately a necessary setback, and it never gets easier no matter how many injuries you may sustain. And I think if it is you have any of these battles as well, what I wanted to do is make this video to say that I've come to terms with it, I've accepted it's okay, and at that moment that I've accepted it's okay, how much it was affecting me physically and mentally, was actually where I started to see an improvement in my rehabilitation. And rather than trying to be the person that knows it all, what I did was I accepted that this was a more serious injury and I was going to have to do things properly. And I did have an MRI scan to make sure that my suspicions were correct about what was going on. And that was when it was confirmed to me. I have reached out to other professionals, sports medicine doctors, people at the top of their field working with Olympic athletes to see if there was anything that I was missing or I was doing wrong. And the advice I was given from everybody I've spoken to is exactly the same. You know what the problem is, you just need to accept the problem and put in the work to get yourself back to doing the right things. So I do now have regular treatment. I have followed a graded rehabilitation program, which I am considering myself in the early stages of. But I am pleased to say that who would have thought it? It's working. And actually, I'm feeling much better. Over the past couple of months, I tried some running attempts and they just didn't go very well, and I suffered a lot of pain afterwards as a result. I'm pleased to say that I have started to return to a graded running approach, so some thought's gone into this rehab rather than just going out there and hoping it was going to be okay. I'm following a more detailed program that I've actually sat down and treated myself as a client rather than, you know, perhaps not putting myself first. And I've had to fight my ego in order to do that. I've had to fight, you know, I'm breaking up my runs with a walk-run program, which at first was difficult on my ego, I'm happy to admit that. But actually, what I've realised is it's much better to finish pain-free and then to have actually enjoyed what I'm doing and feel like I'm starting to return to sport. So I wanted to put this out there to share that with you. Something I pride myself on is being open, but I found it very difficult over this topic to be open because I felt that I should have known better. But I hope that has been helpful for you, and if you resonate with this at all, if you're somebody who's suffering and if you're having any of the internal battles that I have, then I just want to say that that's okay and that's quite normal. Unfortunately, as I said, in this quest of being fit and healthy, we all go through this at some stage. So if this has helped you, if you like this type of content, it's a different thing for me to be putting together. Make sure you like that button because, hit that like button because that will be telling me that this is helpful for you to be hearing. If you're somebody who resonates with these comments or suffering yourself at the moment, drop me a comment, let me know, reach out because I'd happily come back to each of those and to talk to you about that one. So I hope this has been helpful for you. If you don't subscribe to our channel currently, please feel free to hit that subscribe button and make sure you hit the bell notification because then you will be alerted anytime we bring out some content, no matter whether it's about something about me personally, our clinics here, or some of our tips to help you stay fit, healthy, and on your way to achieving your sporting goals.